It's Sunday, 19th of January, and we are awaiting SpaceX's launch escape test in just under 17 minutes and 8 seconds. The test today is to demonstrate the effectiveness of our launch escape system. Now we are currently go for launch from pad 39A at Kennedy Space Center at 10:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Yeah, good morning, John and Marie. It's a pretty nice day here at the Kennedy Space Center in Florida. You can see behind us here on the lawn, some of the media have gathered to shoot this launch. And of course, the countdown clock, the iconic one, they're counting 12 minutes until launch. As you mentioned, the first crew members assigned to fly Crew Dragon are NASA astronauts Doug Hurley and Bob Behnken. And they have the most, you could say, invested in the outcome of this test flight. Right now, they are just a few miles away from launch pad 39A, which is just behind my left shoulder here. They're in the SpaceX firing room inside the Launch Control Center, where they will closely monitor today's flight abort test. Now, right now, they've been training up until this point, training hard with NASA and SpaceX so they can understand every aspect of Dragon's systems, their spacesuits, and how to respond in a variety of potential emergency scenarios, including an escape from a Falcon 9 rocket in the middle of flight. The end result of that could be an early splashdown in the Atlantic Ocean. Now, both astronauts told us what they will specifically be looking for during today's test flight.
I think both of us are really excited that the in-flight abort test is about to happen. You know, we kind of view that as the graduation exercise, like a lot of folks do on the NASA side, to make sure that we're really confident that we've got a good plan and good procedures in place for pulling that mission off. And so I'm excited that we're this far, and I know once it's behind us, you know, we'll be the prime Falcon 9 Crew Dragon crew.
What we want to see from this test is just an end-to-end success. So, you know, another successful launch of the Falcon 9, and then to see the Super Dracos work.
I think that's a really good point. I think getting the NASA team and the SpaceX team on the same page, kind of going forward and kind of walking through all the decisions that you have to make for getting ready for this flight, I think is a big milestone as well, because it's the last launch associated with us before we ride that rocket.
Yeah, that's very true. It is. It's kind of the final exam, so there's a lot riding on it, but also I think it's a culmination of a ton of work from everybody in NASA and SpaceX to get to this point.
I'm just really proud that the team is trying to pull off something so critical from a safety perspective. You know, if we needed to escape off of the rocket, to have that system demoed before we would actually use it is pretty cool that folks are making the investment to make that happen.
We feel really excited about kind of the progress that SpaceX and NASA have made to this point, and this kind of shows us that we're getting really close to our flight. So to see all these capabilities all put together, all the teams together, and to be able to launch this vehicle, it's just a huge boost of confidence.
While that vehicle that you see on the pad looks like a typical Crew Dragon spacecraft from the outside, if you had a look inside, you'll see that the interiors have been stripped down, and there it is. We do have a look inside for you. The cabin has no interior panels except for one on the ceiling, and there's no control panel in there for this test. Dragon's also outfitted with 2 seats that you see there, and sitting inside those seats, we have 2 anthropomorphic test devices.
What, no cool acronym? I'll just call them test devices.
We have enough acronyms, John.
While the test devices do not have any sensors on them today, the seats they're sitting on are instrumented. We'll be able to measure the loads on the seat to ensure that there are no unexpected issues in this stressing test case.
Again, this is just a test. We're fully expecting Falcon 9 to break up, so don't be alarmed if you see that happening live. And with that, let's listen in now. We're just 45 seconds from the final countdown.
FTS is armed. Go for launch.
If successful, the next launch of Crew Dragon could be manned and happen before mid-year 2020. So as the Crew Dragon launches, I want you to think about what it would be like to be aboard it as an astronaut on your way to space.
Minus 15 seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Ignition, liftoff. Semper Fi, aim high. Go Falcon, go Dragon.
Vehicle is pitching downrange.
T plus 30 seconds. Falcon 9 with the Crew Dragon capsule is heading east from pad 39A. Everything looking good right now. As we get ready for max dynamic pressure, we are now throttling down the first stage engines on the Falcon
power
9.
and telemetry nominal.
Everything continues to look good. We're approaching the period of maximum dynamic pressure.
Vehicle is supersonic and passing through maximum dynamic pressure.
You've heard we're supersonic. We're through max Q. We're getting ready now to throttle the engines back up on the first stage.
Stage 1, throttle up.
There's the call out. Okay, the major activity coming up in just over 10 seconds. Shutdown and Dragon escape from the Falcon 9.
Miko.
Dragon launch escape initiated.
Dragon's away.
And you can hear some really loud cheering in the room. Okay, you just saw a bright flash there. It looks like that may be Falcon 9 breaking up. We've got some loud cheers here in Hawthorne. The folks that just watched live the Dragon separate. The next milestone we have coming up at 2 minutes, 25 seconds, we're expecting to see the trunk jettison. So that claw that connects the trunk to the capsule is going to separate, allowing Dragon to separate from the trunk. That's coming up in 15 seconds.
And we do have the report. Loss of telemetry from Falcon 9, first stage.
And there you just saw the trunk jettison. Again, some really loud cheers here in Hawthorne, California. This test is looking great so far.
Nice view from the back of the Dragon capsule. We're also trying to see if we get the view there on the right-hand side from the aircraft that's orbiting the area. Now the Dragon control system is now going to be reorienting the capsule. We're at a high altitude where the aerodynamics are negligible. So we're going to use the small Draco thrusters on the Dragon capsule to reorient it. That gets it in a position with a heat shield down to re-enter the Earth's atmosphere, and then later to deploy the drogue parachutes.
Drogue parachutes are what we use to begin to decelerate the Dragon capsule in preparation for splashdown. And there they are. Drogue chutes are out. Again, some major cheering going on here as every stage of this test unfolds. Now we're going to be getting ready for the main chutes to deploy.
Now main chutes will be coming up fairly quickly. There are 4 main parachutes. These are the newest Mark III parachutes. They're each 116 feet in diameter. We deploy them about 2 kilometers above sea level, 6,500 feet above the Atlantic Ocean. We're getting good views from the Dragon and the airplane, showing the 2 drogue chutes. Now we're just waiting for the main parachutes to be deployed very shortly. And we have the view from a different camera on Dragon showing the 4 main parachutes. Now they are deployed in a reefed condition. That means we're keeping them fairly shut to avoid shocks, and now we're slowly opening up the 4 parachutes. Great views coming off of the Dragon camera on the left, and we can also see the 4 parachutes from the airplane on the right.
That is a really cool view.
Nice view of the orange and white parachutes as they're opening up into the second position, and then going to fully open. From fully open, we'll be descending about 20 to 25 feet per second down to the Atlantic. So from that 6,500 foot altitude, it's going to take us a few minutes to splash down. Also right now that the mains are out, a sequence is performed on the Dragon, which will reorient the crew seats into a splashdown position, give them a little better angle to take the slow bounce as we hit the ocean. Now, Maria, I talked about the parachutes came out initially at a reef condition. That's fairly standard. They come out not fully open. That way they're minimizing the shock on the parachutes. We're also minimizing the shock on the capsule. Again, we want to give a smooth ride to the crew as they are coming back through the Earth's atmosphere.
Right.
Now, the parachutes are located behind a door that's at the bottom of the capsule. It's below the crew hatch. So Dragon commands the door to release, and as you saw in the video, the drogue parachutes pull the door away, and that pulls the 4 main parachutes out. Now, these are the new Mark III parachutes. We've completed here at SpaceX over 80 tests of that parachute system, including 10 multi-parachute tests of this particular upgraded parachute design over the last few months to demonstrate that the design is ready for flight.
Now those 4 parachutes are actually going to be released from the capsule after splashdown, and they'll be recovered too.
And we are down.
Down a little bit early, in fact. And there you can see the recovery boat beginning to approach instantly. I'm going to try to talk a little bit louder so you can hear me over the folks here. This has been a really exciting thing to see because we had the weather. We weren't really sure if the weather was going to cooperate. We were trying to weigh, is it favorable for launch, but also is it favorable for recovery, because they really have to watch the height of those waves in order to do this operation. That fast boat is just off screen now, but there's 4 fast boats out there in the area to begin, again, that initial approach to Dragon. The recovery operation from here takes about 2 hours, but all in all, this looked like a really great test.
Yeah, a lot of fun watching the Dragon come down. We had great views from the onboard camera in particular. Now I think this camera is from our Go Searcher recovery ship, which is also the tender for the fast boats. You saw one of them headed out there. And you can also see it looks still a little choppy, so you understand we were kind of on the edge of the weather conditions out in the splashdown area. But they assessed the boat data, the buoy data, looked at the forecast and said we were go. And while we took 2.5 hours to get here, we finally got here, and it was great. And that's the summary for today. It looks like right now a great test. Visually, everything happened. Falcon 9, you saw the liftoff. We had kind of a long view from the camera. Dragon did shut down the 9 Merlin 1D engines and separate. We did see the flash as the Falcon 9 came apart, as predicted. No surprise there. Dragon, we saw a great view as it got to apogee. It deployed the trunk, separating it, reoriented. Then the drogue chutes came out, the main chutes came out, and then we just waited for that nice soft splashdown in the Atlantic Ocean.
And we saw, and it looks like we just lost the view from out there on the ship, but you couldn't really see much from that particular angle. Again, that recovery operation is going to take a couple of hours, so we're not going to stay on the air for the duration of that. But we are going to be back for a news conference coming up at 11:30 Eastern time this morning. That would be, let me do the math real quick, 8:30 Pacific time. We're going to hear from NASA and SpaceX leaders about their initial thoughts on this test that you just saw. Of course, everything looked fantastic, but there's going to be a lot of data to dig into. They're going to also collect those parachutes, get a lot of data from that, and then see what the next steps are on the path to Demo 2, when, of course, we're going to be launching NASA astronauts Bob Behnken and Doug Hurley. So stay tuned for that news conference. It will be carried live on NASA TV. If you're watching on the web, just tune to nasa.gov/live so you can see that coverage. Again, that's 8:30 Pacific time, 11:30 Eastern. Thanks so much for joining us for this morning's test.
With this apparent success, I would like to congratulate everybody at SpaceX and NASA in this joint effort to get American astronauts back into space aboard an American-made rocket. Congratulations and Godspeed. From Futurist Mind, I'm Sean. Thank you for watching.